Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football, taking a look at another 2023 NFL mock draft for the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, the picture for the Dallas Cowboys heading into the draft continues to change. I think Dallas is putting together a phenomenal offseason. The latest addition, Brandin Cooks, coming over from Houston. I absolutely love the move. I'm going to throw it to Rock in a second to kind of break it down for us. But before we get into it again, I just want to say thank you to the Dallas Cowboy fans. We've had a blast running mock drafts, talking about this offseason that Dallas is having, and you guys have been absolutely awesome with the support. So again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Let us know what you guys think about the mock drafts. Of course, that's the beauty of draft season. Talking ball in the comment section. Even if you don't like it, let us know how you feel. Rock, I'm going to kick it off to you. Brandin Cooks coming to Dallas. I love it. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, we were talking about getting a pass catcher, someone who could stretch the field, could step in maybe as a high-end wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 1. And I think the last time we were on, we talked about potential trade options, and he's one of the guys I mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
So happy we got it done. Cost nothing. Texans eat up $6 million of that deal. And yeah, we're living life right now in the Cowboys.
The Texans absolutely getting fleeced there. Like, weren't they asking for like a second round in Brandin Cooks like a couple months ago? And then what is a 5 and 6 going over? Like, I think Dallas easily wins this trade. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Like, as we do these mock drafts, we're talking about like the Dallas Cowboys kind of pigeonholed themselves into taking a wide receiver. Not anymore. And what I'm so happy about Dallas doing this is you go into the draft now, being able to just take the best player available. I think so many teams head into the 2023 NFL draft needing like a piece, having a position of need where they're kind of pigeonholed into, we need to address this position. Going into the draft, there's not too many glaring holes in this depth chart and roster. Dallas can really go to work and just take their best player on their board at 26 and throughout the draft.
Yeah, we didn't even mention Stephon Gilmore too. I mean, we're filling every single hole that we need to right now. We typically do this in free agency, but maybe it's signing an outside free agent that's kind of on their last leg, but now we're going out and trading some of our 5th and 6th round picks. Like, who cares about that? I was sick about mocking all those players anyway. So yeah, get some starters on the team, fill out some holes, and we're getting ready for April 26th.
And we talked about like using all those day 3 picks to do something, like whether it's like move up in day 2 and get another guy you like, or in this case, go get a proven wide receiver that's going to come in and has that speed to stretch the field that we've always been talking about. We've been talking about Zay Flowers. We've been talking about Jalen Hyatt. I mean, Brandin Cooks, 4.3, 340. Like, this dude absolutely cooks. I remember him playing at Oregon State. It's a phenomenal getting for the fantasy footballers. Like, Brandin Cooks is always the sneakiest draft pick. I mean, we're in a fantasy league together, and like Brandin Cooks just flying under the radar, always just an elite wide receiver, very productive. I love the move. Let's get into this draft now. And now, again, I feel like we've been talking wide receiver at 26 a lot. I think you're freed up to kind of address like, okay, who's the best player available at 26? I see Nolan Smith right on the board. That I absolutely love that. Rock, early takes here on some of the guys that are on the board here.
I thought Bijan was destiny until I see the New York Giants grab them.
That's
right pick before. Like, if we're talking realistically, I think Bijan, if he's there, will be the pick no matter who else is on the board. I just think he's probably their top 5 player on the Cowboys board right now. But if we're looking through who's available here, go up to the top, man. It's tough not to get Nolan Smith here after how he tested. We could look at Anton Harrison, sticking him at left tackle, being a succession plan for maybe a Tyron Smith, kicking Tyler Smith to left guard full time. Wouldn't be upset about that. And again, we did fix the wide receiver position, but you can never have too many. And Zay Flowers is a mismatch demon. I don't even know what to call him. I mean,
Zay Flowers could do it all. And that's one of the things that a lot of people have been talking about this wide receiver group is like a lot of them are slot wide receivers. I don't like Zay Flowers might not be the biggest wide receiver, but he played on the boundary a lot at Boston College, and you can do a lot of different things with him. And I wouldn't fight that pick at all. But I do think that there are some players on this board, Anton Harrison and Nolan Smith, being 2 guys that are top 20 dudes on my big board. Those are the 2 guys I'd be looking at. I'll defer to you there. Anton Harrison, Nolan Smith, can't go wrong with either.
I love Anton Harrison. I think you know this. And when we were going through our position rankings, I think he's my number 1 or 2 tackle. I love that pick. I don't think it'd be the pick, but I think that's where I want to go. And it's something we haven't mocked the Cowboys yet. And I think it's an interesting kind of scenario that will play into round or day 2.
And I actually like this pick a lot because I think the tackle class kind of falls off. Like after Darnell Wright, I think there are some question marks. Like Matthew Bergeron is solid, but getting a guy like Broderick Jones, Paris Johnson Jr., Peter Skronsky, or Anton Harrison, and a lot of the talk is those are the three top tackles, and Broderick Jones, Skronsky, and Paris Johnson Jr. I mean, we're Anton Harrison fans on this channel, and like
Yeah.
he's a guy that I think's a top 20 dude that I think the sky's the limit with a guy like Anton Harrison. All right, let's start cooking. Pick 58. A lot of different ways you could go here. Any particular positions that you might want to be taking a look at 58 here?
Corner, tight end, and depending on what linebacker is available, I'd be looking there.
See, if there's no Luke Musgrave, Dolan Kincaid, Darnell, like I'm not a Sam Laporta guy.
You're not. How are you? I'm so shocked you are not a Laporta guy. Being a Midwesterner, relationships to Iowa, like what is it that Laporta like?
Is he going to be any better than Ferguson or Hendershot?
Well,
no.
I don't think there's many tight ends in this draft that will be day one because tight end's one of the toughest positions to kind of move into in the NFL. So I guess you have a point there. I think Laporta after the catch though is great. I think he's an underrated athlete. He tested very well in the combine. Great hands, fantastic blocker. I think he's the best blocking tight end behind Darnell Washington in the draft. So I mean, I love him. I don't know about the value day two. There's probably some better players on the board. I do agree that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a Sam Laporta guy. He's steady Eddie. And I think a lot of, even a guy like Dalton Schultz was just, I thought he was solid for Dallas. Obviously, Dak Prescott loves his tight ends, but I don't think you're necessarily upgrading from a guy like Ferguson or Peyton Hendershot, even a Sean McCune. You all love the Big Ten tight ends.
They're all the same.
I'll tell you what, though, I do like this cornerback class, and I like it at kind of all of day two. Hodges Tomlinson, Eli Ricks, Garrett Williams. You know I'm a fan of all of them. Clark Phillips. I know you like Darius Rush a lot. Yep. Would you want to go here or?
So I'm coming around more and more to go down a little bit. I forgot his name all of a sudden. Clark Phillips, day two, even second round. I think someone who can play the nickel corner position and have the ball production that he has. I think he's kind of not a can't miss prospect, but I don't see a situation where he totally fails or flops as a player in the NFL. He's just got the dog in him.
Yes.
I think he can step in day one and start if we need him to. So I love that pick. Again, I love Rush. I love Ricks. There's a lot of corners on day two that I'd be totally fine with taking.
And they used Clark Phillips as a dog at Utah. Like there were a lot of good wide receivers in the Pac-12, and it's a dying breed of cornerbacks to just follow the best player on the field. Clark Phillips did that for that Utah defense. You see it. He lined up all over the field, essentially wherever that wide receiver one was. You saw him following Jordan Addison. And yeah, he got beat a few times, but that's what happens when you go up against first-round caliber wide receivers. But you absolutely love that he is battle-tested. And again, the ball production is there. 8 interceptions in the last 2 years. I believe he had 6 his senior year at Utah. There's a lot to like about Clark Phillips. And again, a guy that we haven't really talked about and slipping in the draft just because he's a little undersized.
Yeah, and I mean, you throw him in a room with Stephon Gilmore, Trayvon Diggs. Then we got Deron Bland, Clark Phillips, Jordan Lewis, maybe Anthony Brown. I think that fills out that cornerback room as best as we possibly can.
I'm actually down. I don't think I've taken Clark Phillips in a single mock draft because again, I tend to lean towards those longer boundary receivers. Y'all have that. Clark Phillips is just a very good wide receiver that's getting pushed down boards because he's not necessarily the biggest dude walking into the room.
Yeah, I agree.
Pick 90 again. Just kind of look.
It looks like the same players that were. That is weird.
Yeah. Hodges Tomlinson would be another phenomenal pick at 90 if he's available when we pass on Clark.
I think we need to look at running back here, especially with Zeke on. I know they're high on both Eric Gray and Tank Bigsby and Kendre Miller. So I think any one of these guys can kind of step in day one and be an impact player. So I wouldn't have an issue drafting really any of them.
I'll bang the table for Eric Gray, and you see PFF rank 155th prospect overall. He's a top 5. I mean, I think he was in both our top 5 running backs when we did our position rankings. He's a top 3 running back for me. Eric Gray is different, and when you turn on the film of him, you think he's an undersized back that's just more of a spacey dude. You look at the weight. I mean, 5'10", 211. Like this dude is a pretty big running back. But what I think separates him from most of the other running backs in this class is he's so smooth at the second level. Like making second level defenders miss with ease, but he also runs the ball damn hard. And again, Tank Bigsby is another guy that I really do like. We've gone with Tank Bigsby. I think Eric Gray would be a nice selection here at 90. And this is the sweet spot for running backs. Like once you get into 129, 169, more of kind of running back specialists, this is your chance to get kind of an all-purpose back that can do a lot of different things for this offense. I think Eric Gray would make a lot of sense here.
Yeah, let's do it. Although I have Tank Bigsby higher, I think it makes sense if we want to get someone who can catch the ball a little bit better, because that's the one drawback with Bigsby. He's not really a pass catcher. So let's go with Gray. I love him.
You put the tag on Tony Pollard.
I don't think he's back next year. I think that.
I don't think so either.
I think the Jones brothers, son and father, whatever you want to call it, they're scared of another Zeke situation contract-wise.
I think y'all learned your lesson, and we kind of were talking about that. Like, it just doesn't make that much sense to pay running backs after their rookie deal. You kind of run, and I sound like a jerk saying this, but you run them into the ground. It's especially how Zeke runs, especially like it's a very physical position that it's hard to be productive into your 30s at the running back spot. So and you saw what Tony Pollard did. You take Tony Pollard in day 2, he comes in and is arguably the better running back in that room for the last 2 years. Yeah,
totally. Is there any interior offensive lineman left? Because if not, linebacker, defensive line would be my pick here. I love Mafi.
You want to talk about Antonio? I mean, we could probably wait till 169, but you want to cook on Antonio Mafi real quick?
Just because we did lose Connor McGovern to the Bills. Congratulations on your new right guard. He'll be a better right guard than left guard. I think the not desperation, but the kind of need for a left guard for the Cowboys is obviously increased. And Mafi's someone who I don't think was in the right situation at UCLA. They're asking their linemen to run down the field, kind of zone spread offense. Mafi's a former defensive tackle who has thick legs, is more of a mover, just really didn't fit the scheme there. And I think his tape showed that. But saying he's a former defensive tackle, I think he's got good technique, and I mean, he can just move people. So if that's what the Cowboys are looking at, I know they love Osiris Torrance and Steve Avila. Mafi kind of fits that mold as kind of a stout interior offensive lineman.
Yeah, and I think he's just scratching the surface of what he can be. And you noted the transition from defensive line. Like, this dude could be a very, very good NFL. I also think if you're asking me who is like one of the most day one ready interior offensive linemen, I do like Emil Ekiyor from Bama as well. I'll let you take. You want Mafi or Emil Ekiyor here?
Oh, my bad. I totally lost you. I thought the whole stream would kick off, but I'm good with Mafi. I think that he can step in probably day one and be a starter for the Cowboys.
I like it. 169, 212, and again, and we don't have to go through a ton of day 3 picks. That going off that discussion, like you pick 5 guys on day 3, like 2 or 3 of them are getting cut. So I kind of like how Dwayne McBride, I don't know how he's here at 169, one of the best periods. Corey Bennett, also a very good prospect falling. Zach Kuntz.
Did you like his film or did you like the tape or the combine?
I like the height.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch him before the combine, so when I was like looking for his film, I expected to see just a freak, and his tape didn't really show that, which is interesting. Especially,
did you watch 2021? Because he was banged up in 2022.
Yeah, 2021. I didn't. Yeah. There was like no tape on 2022. Yeah, I could find. So yeah, I mean, he's a great prospect. Did you like anything about his game in particular? I think he's different though. Kind of like Cole Turner from last year coming from Nevada. My problem with taking Sam Laporte is I'm not sure if he's any different from a guy like Sean McEwen or Jake Ferguson in that tight end room. Zach Kuntz at 6'8", I think is someone different that can do some different things, especially when it gets to the red zone, when you got to start scoring. Like, it's so important to score touchdowns in the red zone, and having a dude who's 6'8", a very similar selling point I have for Darnell Washington, having a guy with that big of a catch radius when the throwing windows get tight inside the 20, I think is really meaningful. And when you're looking at day 3 prospects, a guy that could maybe hit in Zach Kuntz, I think that would make a lot of sense. Yeah, so I'd like that pick. The only thing I'll say is the Cowboys will probably draft a quarterback at some point in this draft, just to save face, because I mean Dak could leave at any point. I know they have a one-on-one visit with Aiden O'Connell. Not like he was the most productive or impressive quarterback in college football last year, but if you're looking at a Cowboys backup quarterback like a Cooper Rush, someone who could just stay in the pocket, run the offense, be a game general. I think O'Connell will be a nice piece to kind of develop, and maybe in a couple of years, just see what happens if Dak ends up leaving. Maybe have him as a transition piece of the quarterback position.
Yeah, Malone and I talked about that the last time about taking a backup quarterback, and that's what I see these guys. Like, I don't think a guy like Aiden O'Connell, Stetson Bennett, Clayton Tune, you go down the list outside of Malik Cunningham, who's I think could be playing kind of a different position when he gets to the next level. Like these guys, because guys like Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. Tyler Van Dyke decided to stay in college for another year, mostly because of NLI. I just don't see any, like, all these guys are over 24 years old. Aiden O'Connell, Clayton Tune, Stetson Bennett. So I don't see a future as like these guys are QB1s, but I do see like as a backup quarterback that can come in and win games. I think they can do it. My pick would be Stetson Bennett. If you're talking about quarterback that needs to come in and win games, Stetson Bennett's done that for the last 2 years. Yeah. But as a prospect, I think Clayton Tune is probably the best, but I wouldn't argue out of any of these three.
Yeah, the only issue I have with Stetson is I just don't think the locker room loved him at Georgia. Nope. And the more offseason that happens, the worse it gets for him. I mean, I don't know. Did you watch his 40-yard dash? It looked like he literally slowed down. And I think that's so like teams didn't get like a slot wide receiver transition for him, but it just looked very off to me.
Yeah, Stetson. And I'm with you. Like you hear like Stetson Bennett kind of thinking he's like the Heisman dude when essentially, I mean, I think I could cook in that Georgia offense. And you let me run behind Broderick Jones, a guy like Jamar Salyer last year. Like I'd put up some numbers throwing to George Pickens. If you're asking me, I would be good with Aiden O'Connell. And again, one of the more productive quarterbacks. I don't think he's an NFL talent necessarily arm-wise, but I mean, put up a lot of numbers, is accurate with the football, makes good decisions, an experienced dude. I think you come in and win games.
Yeah. It's not the most exciting pick, and I'm sure the Cowboys fans on the
Have you gotten to McClendon Curtis from Chattanooga yet?
Who was that?
McClendon Curtis from Chattanooga.
Yes, I actually liked his tape. I don't know why people are so low on him. I think
we should have just grabbed him. I just saw him go off the board. I'm a little upset at myself because we talked about him last time he ran a Dallas one, and I mean he's a swing guy. I think he plays guard at the next level, but he's a perfect piece where I think he can be a damn good guard at the NFL level.
Yeah.
But if you need him to kick out the tackle, like he also can do that in a pinch. Like I think McClendon Curtis might squeak his way into late day 2. He's a very good player.
Yeah, I think he was on what's his name? Dan Brugler's like top 150 or something like that. And that's why I watched him. It's like, oh, who is this guy? And they're on the tape. I mean, he looks totally different than everyone else he's playing against. But I mean, it's great tape. Like, you can't argue with that.
And rightfully so. Okay, I want to kind of sell you. You guys have been listening, and we've been banging the table for a guy like Bryce Ford Wheaton, who I think is very good. Justin Shorter is another guy that I kind of want to talk about. 6'4", 220 pounds, former 5-star, top 10 national recruit at Penn State, transfers to Florida. Not that productive in college just because, one, struggled with injuries and consistency playing. 2, Emory Jones, Anthony Richardson, not exactly the best quarterbacks to put up some numbers with. In terms of potential, I think he has a lot of it. And then another really interesting prospect, too. A couple guys I want to know. Obviously, my guy, Ronnie Bell. I don't think there's anything special there, but Keaton Thompson and Puka Nacua. Thompson came into the league as a quarterback, or came into college football as a quarterback, kind of went to tight end, wide receiver, just pass catcher, offensive weapon. And Puka Nacua is a dude that get the ball in his hands. Like he can do some special things. If we're trying to kind of find a late round wide receiver, a position that we haven't necessarily addressed, I need these guys to stick out to you.
I like Puka. I like Ronnie Bell. I haven't watched Thompson, Higgins, or Shorter. So I'm going to defer to you on this one. I'm fine with any pass catcher this late in the draft, just to
let me cook.
See the back end of the wide receiver group.
Let me cook, and let's get a guy in Justin Shorter, who I legitimately think if this dude gets right health-wise and is in a good spot, I really, and it kind of offers something that you don't really have. Like you have your speedster, Brandin Cooks, you have like your wide receiver one, your bona fide dude, and CeeDee Lamb. Justin Shorter, like 6'5", a big body, can go up and make plays kind of above the rim. Again, you took Jalen Tolbert last year. I didn't have the same evaluation as a lot of people did. And I've been wrong about a lot of prospects, and Jalen Tolbert still might be good. Right. Thought that was a weird one. Justin Shorter, I don't even know if he'll make the team, but if he does and he clicks, like I think it's worth kind of throwing a dart at the wall here because I really do think he could be a special prospect.
This late, any prospect with athletic traits, I mean,
yeah, sign me up.
Throwing it against the wall, see if it sticks.
Yep, 100%. Love it. Yeah, God, now we're getting
We're deep.
we're deep in the weeds here.
Do we want to risk the PFF grade with a kicker? Like, do we want? I know we'll get an F for it.
Let's take a
But
look
I
at
mean,
the
we need
kickers
a
here.
kicker. I want Moody.
Yeah, get out.
Moody.
And let me sell you on Jake Moody real quick. I mean, for one, he has the NFL leg. Like he hit a 56-yarder, I believe, in college. But another thing that I think is massively important that people don't talk about is getting kickers who've kicked in big games, because you're gonna need to make big time kicks at the next level, especially if you play for Dallas when you're playing for spots in the playoffs, when you're playing in the playoffs. You have to have a kicker who kind of has ice in his veins, who's been in the moment. Jake Moody, because Michigan could not score touchdowns in the red zone, could not really move the ball once they got on the other side of the 50, had to make a lot of kicks and a lot of big time kicks with the season on the line. NFL like ice in his veins. Sign me up for Money Moody.
I think just with his pedigree and
Yes.
talent, I don't think he lasts this long in the draft. Like last year, we thought
Agreed.
that Punt God was going to be the first special teams player taken, and it ended up being the LSU kicker to the Browns. And like it was shocking because some people had Punt God in like a late day 2 pick almost. So kickers are valued. Kickers will be taken earlier than these mock drafts show.
And I think you make a good point. Having a kicker who has pedigree. I don't know why we're talking so much about a kicker right now.
Love kickers,
but like they got to make kicks. You got to have kickers who are used to the moment. Jake Moody's a guy that's used to the movement. PFF, I'm telling you, we had too many A's for our PFF grades the last mock drafts. We were due for one. I think you're doing something wrong if you're taking everyone PFF wants you to take. So Anton Harrison, that's a best player available. Like I think if you don't get Brandin Cooks, you're probably looking to get a guy like Zay Flowers. Getting Brandin Cooks allows you to take a prospect that you really like. And Anton Harrison or Nolan Smith would have been a phenomenal pick for the Dallas Cowboys at 26. Mm-hmm. One position that I don't think we addressed that maybe if we were to run back, we could have, interior defensive lineman.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's still ways for us to fill that position out in free agency. I know that Jonathan Hankins and Carlos Watkins and maybe a Calais Campbell are still kind of floating around a little bit. So I know it's not a position the Cowboys value very much. So like, yes, we could fill it in the draft. They tend to like to do it late in free agency. So either way, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and again, there's just not many holes where you can go and get the players you like. And the best thing about this mock is we talked about a lot of players that we have not talked a lot about. Clark Phillips that's early for 58. Like he's probably in the top 75, but again, he's going to be really, really good at what you asked him to do. He's going to be a phenomenal nickel cornerback at the next level. Mm-hmm. And he's got that dog in him that I know we sound goofy saying it, but I want a cornerback that's not afraid of the big moment, that's going to follow the elite wide receivers. Clark Phillips does that at college. Eric Gray, they don't like it. We love Eric Gray. They don't. That's fine. Antonio Mafia, no, that's a year guy. You got him on my radar. Solid mock.
Hey, listen, and if we don't have a tight end in the draft this year, it might be because we might be trading for one soon. So let's hype up the Kyle Pitts train and see what happens there.
I love it, and we'll get right back on when Kyle Pitts is in Dallas. Again, appreciate you guys checking us out as usual. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.